Hey, how's it going? If you're new here, my name is Jan and I love makeup. And if you're not new, thanks for coming back. I really appreciate you. Today's video is going to be my top 10 favorite palettes. I have to cheat. All I can be is sorry. That's just the way the ball bounces. Them's the breaks. I got this idea from my friend Sharon here on the YouTubes. She comes to all my videos and she comments and she supports me and had this brilliant idea. So I said I would take a whack at it. I have a hard time like picking favorites and deciding on, what's worth saying it's a favorite. So I chose 10 quote unquote of my most favorite palettes, like just off the cuff today in the mood I'm in. These are my top 10 favorite palettes. And then I started thinking, well, what if I love a palette that's no longer available? Do I count it or do I not count it? What if I don't count it, but it's worth mentioning because I'm not the only person who has it and maybe it needs to be talked about for somebody else? So I'm doing two categories. I'm doing my favorite palettes that are still available, and then I'm doing my favorite palettes that are either no longer available and were holiday releases, because I think none of them are available and some of them were only available for the holiday. Okay, so again, some cheaty bits, but I will let you know when we come to those. Hopefully you're up for this and it's interesting. And if there's anything that I mentioned today that you would like to see a specific video on, please leave it in the comment section because I will totally do it. I love playing makeups. I don't stress about it as a rule, except for this because this is hard for me. But yeah, I love all of these, so I would love to have a reason to play with them. So here we go. Straight out the gate, I'm gonna cheat. You'll understand why in just a second. So these aren't in order of like most favoritist to least favoritist. This is just my favoritist. I chose the Mystic Cove and Sea of Shadows palettes. Both of these palettes are from Divina Cosmetics. They were released at the same time. They kind of go together, so I'm saying they count as one. This is Mystic Cove, very shifty, beautiful, amazing eyeshadows. And then we have Sea of Shadows. Again, beautiful, not as shifty, but some of them are, but the formula is beautiful. The eyeshadows are beautiful. I love both of these palettes so much. And Divina is releasing new stuff. I cannot wait. Shawnee and I are already plotting and planning the videos that we can do. So next up, I genuinely, honestly think that you can't go wrong with a Nomad palette. It'll depend on the colors you prefer to wear, the formula, the undertones, all the things. But for palettes that are still available from Nomad, I went with Hudson Valley. The main reason is this is mine and Shawnee's Meet Cute palette and this red. This is a fantastic red eyeshadow. Oh, I should also mention, while I'm thinking of it, there should be a video on all of these palettes in their corresponding playlist. So like Nomad has a playlist. I believe Divina Cosmetics has a playlist. Like they all have a playlist. So if you're wondering about looks I've already done, feel free to take a reconnoiter there. But this was Nomad's release last fall, like a year ago this fall. And I did a bunch of looks with it. I used it for summer. I used it for fall. This is a fantastic palette. The mattes in here, absolutely stunning. Love, love, love this palette. It's so good. Next up, is kind of a surprise. I mean, I knew I would like it. It's the Cosmic Brushes Delicious Delights palette. I did not include the new one, but similar to Nomad, anything you choose from Cosmic Brushes is going to be amazing. Their formula is spectacular. And I knew I would like this. I like everything I've tried from them, but the amount of times I've reached for this has really surprised me. Like, when I think about, oh, I want to do this look, what's the first palette I think of? And it's this. So often. So this definitely makes the list. But again, anything from Cosmic Brushes would make the list. Everything I've tried, and I've tried all of their eyeshadow palettes and their highlight palette. They've all been spectacular. So next up, more of the same. Anything from this brand is knock your socks off amazing. Literally anything. I have everything except for two things, and that is Blend Bunny. But I had to pick a palette, and I chose Surge. Mainly because I really like the color story. I like just how many options are available in this palette. This one palette, you could go literally any direction. You've got pastels, you've got grunge, you've got shimmer, you've got neons. It's got everything. And in my family, this color right here is high vis. Mike and Dallas both have to wear high vis for safety for work. My daughter did road construction for a while. She had to use high vis. But again, any of the palettes from Blend Bunny are absolutely fantastic. You cannot go wrong. If I were a makeup minimalist and really had to narrow down my eyeshadow collection, Blend Bunny would 100% make the cut, period. No if and, well, most of these would. But yeah, Blend Bunny, Nomad, and Divina, I think are probably the very tippy top of my list. Okay, next up we have the Solomon 2 from Odin's Eye. This is still available, obviously, because all of these ones are. And this is a fantastic color story. You have to like this color story, but it's so good. Again, there's a lot of options. The formula in here is fantastic. I genuinely really love this palette. It's so good. It's easy to use. The mattes are fantastic. The shimmers are very good. This is a really good palette, and I love it. It's gonna be a theme here. All right, the next cheaty bit is, again, two. These are from BH Cosmetics. We have Passion in Paris and Lost in Los Angeles. I don't have the newest Blend Bunny pastel palette, so I can't say this is better than that, but this is one of the best I've ever tried. The Delicious Delights palette is maybe a touch better. We're talking like a hair, but this is such a great palette. The shades are pigmented. They're beautiful on. The shimmers in here cannot be faulted. It's absolutely fantastic. And Passion in Paris has been a favorite of mine for a really long time. I've used this palette so many times. The color story is spectacular. Again, you've got a lot of options in here. You can go blue, you can go purple, you can go red, you can go neutral. Love this. I'm a big fan of a lot from BH Cosmetics. I so wished they were able to come back and, you know, give us their good stuff, but we'll see. I mean, they're not completely a lost cause as of yet, but we'll see. Next, I have this palette from Gloss Gods. It's the Look for Rainbows palette. The multi-chromes in this are so beautiful. These are right up there with Davina. They're so good. I'm pretty sure I tried that, I can't remember, but when I swatched this, I ended up like wiping them all over my face. I just wanted to see as much of the shift on my face as I could. This is such a great palette. It is all shifty special shades and it's amazing. Absolutely fantastic for like wabam eye looks. Next we have the Sydney Grace and the Fancy Face Tropicolor palette. I think, again, you can't go wrong with Sydney Grace. The eyeshadows I've tried have all been amazing. But this palette, I just think it's so good. Again, you've got a lot of options, a lot of different ways you can go. It's got depth, it's got color, it's got light, it's just got it all. And I really like Tina. I think she is hilarious and smart and super entertaining. So, but again, I love the Tiny Marvels palette. That one's very good as well. That's the one that Sydney Grace did with Mel Thompson. I also have Enduring Love. I have the bundle that they did for Mel. You can't go wrong. They're all so good. Okay, and then weirdly, I have two that are kind of more mainstream palettes. And this one is the Viseart Professional Makeup. This is the Neutral Matte Eyeshadow Palette. I got this off the BoxyCharm shop for like way cheap. The quality of these mattes is spectacular. I mean, they're just so good and easy to use. And you've pretty much got most of the mattes you would need, kind of. I mean, there's no very light shades in here, but this is a fantastic all matte palette. And yeah, I just think it ticks a lot of boxes as far as like basic needs. Now that I have the Nomad Air palette, I mean, that's like the perfect neutral palette for me because I really like a lot of colorful looks and don't go for neutrals as often, though I definitely do. The Nomad Air one is just where it's at for me. Okay, and the last palette that I thought of that is still available is the Natasha Denona Circoloco palette. This is her most colorful. I think this is probably the one I feel like it was the most worth picking up. I just used this recently, I think in a Throwback Thursday video. The colors in here are lovely. I will say the pastel shades in here are, in my opinion, crap. They're not good. I don't like them. I'll use them a little bit, but when you've got BH and Delicious Delights from Cosmic Brushes pastels, these aren't great. But I do really enjoy the shimmers in here, so it definitely makes the list of favorite palettes that I have. Because I couldn't not mention these ones, I had to add this category of holiday released / no longer available. And to my very unexpected surprise, is the Lunar Beauty 12 Days of Lunar palette from last year's holiday release. This palette is really good. I don't know why I'm so surprised by it. The color story is nice. The mattes and shimmers, I mean, you could easily just do 2 shadows and it's a look. I really like this palette a lot. And I really genuinely didn't think that I would love it, but I definitely do. So, though I don't necessarily watch Manny much anymore, the palette is still very good. Next, we have another one from Nomad. It is the Nomad Home for the Holidays palette. If you haven't heard me gush about this, I'll just say it real quick. This was my first Nomad purchase. It made me fall in love with the brand. The name of it is Home for the Holidays. That's the first Christmas movie my family and I watch every year. I just love this palette. The shimmers are super basic shimmers. There's nothing overly spectacular about them. When they were released, they were very good. Like, that was a very good palette. You know, makeup has changed quite a bit, but I love that palette so much. We have another holiday release, and this is the BH Cosmetics Miss Claus Santa's Daughter is Here to Slay the Lit List. In my memories, a couple of days ago, there were pictures from all the looks I did with this palette. When I got this, I could not stop using it. I used it, I think, 7 days in a row, created a bunch of different looks. I wish I was clever enough to have found photos or even taken photos of these looks, but this palette was amazing, absolutely fantastic. The only shade I didn't use was this one right here. It's a pressed glitter, and I just don't like pressed glitters. This palette was knock your socks off fantastic. I am so glad I have it, and I'm looking forward to using it this holiday season. Okay, next I actually have 3 from the same brand, and it's Pat McGrath Labs. These holiday palettes, these makeup palettes that are humongous, are so good. This is my favoritist of the holiday releases, mostly because of this shade right here, this red, but the whole palette is amazing. I've never tried a Mothership, so I don't know how they compare to those, but these eyeshadows are just amazing. Every time I use them, I have a good time, except once I was playing with one of them, I can't remember now which, there's a video, and I didn't love how the look came out, but I think it was the brushes I used. So it wasn't the palette's fault, it was entirely user error. And then the last one was from last year, and I'm really bummed she didn't do this again this year. I think it's really too bad, because the price point was pretty darn good if you can't shell out a boatload of money for an eyeshadow palette. I really like these palettes so much. So I passed on this year's release. I just couldn't do it. I will say, opening those palettes is a pain right in the tuchus. And speaking of a pain to open, we have the Kaleidos and Angelica Nyquist palette. This is Club Nebula. This is a beautiful palette. I'm using my little paring knife to open these because they're so hard to do, and I am not breaking a nail. This palette is amazing. It's so beautiful. Again, so many options for different looks in this. I love it so much. This shade broke on me, and I repressed it, thank goodness, because I almost cried. I was so upset because you can't get it anymore. If this had been unfixable, I would have been very sad. It's just makeup, shouldn't be the end of the world, and it wouldn't be, but I would be sad. That's how much I like that palette. Another one from Angie, we have the Hella and Odin's Eye palette. This is a fantastic palette. I mean, obviously, oh my gosh, why do I keep saying that? The color story, the eyeshadows, the formula, I have enjoyed every single look I've done with this palette. It's so good, and I hope that if you wanted it, you were able to get it, because it's such a great palette. I genuinely think Angie knows what she's doing when it comes to eyeshadows. That's for sure. All right, last two. I couldn't not mention this one. This is the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge palette. I had ordered a boatload of eyeshadow palettes, highlighters, everything from Nomad, and was gushing and gushing and gushing about them in a video. And one of my subscribers reached out to Nomad and, you know, explained that I was a huge fan and that they should kind of know who I am. And then Felicia reached out to me and asked if she could send me the new release when it came out, and it was the Snow Lodge palette. So yeah, that's gonna stay a favorite forever. And the color story. This was actually the first palette I chose for this video before I thought about whether or not the palettes were still available. So that's how much I love that palette. It's so good. Again, the color story, you can go so many different ways with it. It's spectacular. And last but not least, we have the Tati Beauty Volume 1 palette. Obviously no longer available. I'm not a fan of Tati so much anymore, but no one can say she didn't know what she was doing with this palette. This palette is top notch. I mean, it's at the top of the list for any eyeshadow palette that's pretty much neutral. It's fantastic. I'm thinking about like December videos and what I want to do, and I like the idea of doing like super fancy makeups for the holidays and things like that. And every time I think of that, I think of the Tati palette. It's fantastic. If she ever comes out with another eyeshadow palette, even though I don't subscribe to her channel or anything like that anymore, or kind of, you know, anything, I would buy the palette because she knows what she's doing. I mean, it's just so good. So that is me blathering on for more than 20 minutes about my favorite eyeshadow palettes. You can thank Sharon, she is Shazdo, in the comment section for this video. I could talk about makeups and eyeshadow all day long. I love it. And I'm not a professional, so I can't like go that route with you, but I can talk about the passion behind the love of the makeups. So hopefully you like this video. Again, please let me know if there's a palette in here that you would like to see a look with, or all the palettes you would like in order of which ones you would like first. I'm always looking for ideas for videos, so don't be afraid to leave them down below. All right, I'm going to go. Hopefully you like this. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Either way, I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Be good and remember to be kind to you.